You're now tuning in to the Here's the Deal podcast, covering today's biggest stories from the gridiron to the hardwood. Hosted by Michael D. White Jr. and David Coleman.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Here's the Deal, episode 10. I'm one of your hosts, Michael White, here with my co-host.
Welcome. It's your boy Cole. Welcome to another episode of Here's the Deal.
Glad to be back. It's been a crazy. How are you enjoying the first round of the playoffs so far?
It's been very eventful. I'm liking the rivalries getting. We usually don't see that in today's games. A lot of buddy.
We got some old heads going at some young heads in the playoffs, but we'll get to that a little bit later. Let's jump in and talk about the first team that has advanced. That would be the Boston Celtics. They swept the Indiana Pacers. Now, while they may have swept the Pacers, a lot of people aren't really too high on the Celtics because of some of the close games they had to an inferior Pacer team without their best player, Victor Oladipo, of course. So, with that, I ask you, are you encouraged or discouraged from what you've seen so far from the Boston Celtics?
I'm pushing towards the side of caution when it comes to the Celtics, and I'm worried about them in the second round of this playoffs, assuming that they do play the Bucks after they close out their series with probably the Pistons tonight. So after playing Indiana, they, like you said, they were missing their star, Oladipo. He's a defensive player, one of the all-NBA defensive players. 20 plus per game point scorer. I believe if the Pacers did have him, the Celtics may have been in trouble that series. They might have ended up losing because they had so many close games. They weren't getting over the 100 mark until the last two games of the series. So I definitely am siding on the caution with them. They're very heavily dependent on Kyrie Irving and Jason Tatum. They had took over 50% of their shots in Game 3, which it worked out, but come playing against a team like the Bucks, who is great defensively, great offensively, you're going to have to put up points, and you're also going to have to be able to count on multiple players. You're not going to be able to just depend on Kyrie to go play iso ball and get you buckets the whole series, and Jason Tatum as well. He's still only his second year as a pro. You don't want to put that much pressure on him going into a series against the number one team in the league record-wise.
Right. I slightly agree with you. I have my differences. So predictions aside for the next round, I guess I can say overall I'm encouraged by what I've seen from the Celtics. A sweep is a sweep at the end of the day. You know, in about 10 years, if we look back and they win the championship this year, we're not going to say, oh, they swept them, but this was close. It's a sweep. So, hey, they went out there and they did what they needed to do at the end of the day. I saw some good things that I did like from the Celtics in the first round. They seem to be playing more like a cohesive unit now. I know there was a lot of bickering going back and forth during the regular season, and a lot of people questioned would they even be able to pull it together for the playoffs. And I think over the last 4 games, we've seen them finally be able to play better. And I think some of those young guys who are having problems with Kyrie kind of taking the lead have seen that, oh, we need this guy in the playoffs. He is a closer. He's done it on the biggest level of all the levels before. So I like the cohesiveness I'm seeing from this unit. I like the way Gordon Hayward looked in the last game.
Yeah, he played really good.
Yeah, 20 points off the bench. I think he only took like 9 shots. He was hitting his three-pointers.
8% or something like that.
Yeah, very, very efficient night for him. He's starting to dunk the ball a lot more, starting to look a lot more comfortable.
After he got dunked on by Turner, he was out for blood after that.
Oh, yeah, we're not going to skim past that. That was bad. I don't know what. There's no way he thought he was blocking that.
Hey, what got into Miles Turner, though? I'm not used to seeing him raise up like that.
I've seen a couple highlights of him dunking on people before, so it's not that far-fetched.
Okay.
I mean, but like I was saying, Hayward has been looking more comfortable with each and every game. Like we said, he scored 20 points in Game 4, ultimately the closeout game. They're finally starting to see that Gordon Hayward they thought they were going to get all year long.
Yeah, they're not giving him as much high volume and high usage as we thought, but his shooting splits were very good throughout the series, and I believe he averaged a good 12.5 points, which is kind of what you need from him coming off the bench at this point because he's not starting yet. So I believe it will be a benefit to them come the Bucks series.
Right. It's just that they're kind of using him in like a playmaker role off the bench, and I actually think it fits him right now well until he gets his legs 100% on him. Because like we remember when Paul George had that big injury, it took him a while to get 100% back to like what we see him as this year before the injury, an MVP candidate. Now I don't think Gordon Hayward's on that caliber of a Paul George, but I do think he can get back to where he was when he was in Utah.
Yeah, definitely like a tick below Paul George when he was at his peak. But
right.
I believe, like you said, having him in that playmaking role out the bench is the perfect spot to have him, because Terry Rozier, he kind of just wants to go out there and score for the most part. Whenever you see him out there, he getting them shots up.
Man, he's auditioning.
He's playing for a contract,
right?
He's
playing for that.
That's kind of, like we said, those hidden agendas for the team. So that is one of the things to keep an eye on when they do play against the Bucks. Can everybody dial it back and just play as a team? Like you said, they've been really starting to play as a cohesive unit this whole series, and that's why they're able to sweep the Pacers. But Jason Tatum has been playing really great, which a lot of people were talking bad about him. He ended up averaging 19.3 points per game, 51% from the field, and 53% from the three-point line. So he was shooting great. He was their second player and second scoring option to Kyrie throughout the playoff series. So he was playing great, looking like the Jason Tatum that we saw last year in the playoffs.
That was literally what I was going to go to next. Jason Tatum has been playing a lot better. You know, he's playing like the guy we saw in the playoffs last year, and that's good for Boston to me going forward, because now you definitely have that. After Kyrie, it was a bit jumbled up who was that next option throughout the season at different times, but we've seen what like you said, he's averaging nearly 20 on 53% shooting from the three-point. So he's definitely providing a high percentage from three-point. And when him shooting at that high of a clip, and then you have Kyrie Irving doing what he does, the Celtics are going to be a tough out for anyone.
Yeah, Kyrie has to keep doing what he's doing. I believe he's arguably the best point guard in the league when he's locked in defensively. We saw in game one in the finals when they played the Warriors that first year that the Cavs and the Warriors met up. I believe he was the best player on the court up until obviously he got hurt going into overtime. He was blocking shots. He hit the clutch layup to send it into overtime. When he's locked in defensively, he is arguably the best point guard in the league. So if they get that Kyrie, it spells well for them going against the Bucks.
I can't really argue with that, but that is key when he is locked in defensively. I remember maybe 2-3 years ago, that was probably one of my biggest gripes against Kyrie. It's just the defensive side of the ball. I knew what he could do on offense, but what could he do for others? He's definitely proved me wrong as far as a playmaker this year. But you're right. Seeing how he locks in on defense will show us how well the Celtics can handle that going forward against the Bucks. But speaking of the Bucks, can the Boston Celtics take down the Milwaukee Bucks after everything you've seen from this first season in the Pacers?
I believe they have as good a chance as anybody, but I would still pick the Milwaukee Bucks in that series, honestly. I put a lot of thought into it, but I believe at the end of the day, Milwaukee has too much depth. They play too good as a team. Mike Budenholzer puts all his players in the best position to be successful. They're not really going to have an answer for Giannis, I believe. Missing Marcus Smart in that next round is going to be the game changer, I believe. If they have Marcus Smart, that's going to be great for them. They may be able to pull it off, but without Marcus Smart, I believe the Bucks will win the series.
It's kind of tough for me. The second round of the Eastern Conference playoffs is going to be crazy. You got Toronto and Philly on one side, Boston and Milwaukee on the other end. It's tough for me to pick right now. I'm going to give the Celtics a legit shot to beat the Bucks. One, they have the best closer in the game, in my opinion. Like you were just saying, talking about Kyrie, what he's able to do. He's the best closer in the game. So they have that. They're still a great defensive team, which is what you need in the playoffs and what wins games. And they have a great head coach as well. So I give them a legit shot to beat the Bucks. Will it most likely happen? I don't know. It's hard for me to say because on one end you got Boston. Most of these guys have been there or they were there last year. They've gotten great experience. They seem to be pulling it together at the right time. Then on the other hand, you have the Bucks who haven't won a series with Giannis yet. Yeah. So, I mean, they're going to win their first one, obviously, with the Pistons now. But still, it's just, can they take it to the next level? Are the Bucks ready to make that next step? Or are they fool's gold? Are they like the Hawks from years ago, like we always say? That is yet to be seen for me.
Yeah, that's the big question. Are they going to be able to play the same way that they were throughout the regular season, throughout these playoffs? I believe they will be able to. They're too deep of a team. They have too much talent, and you have to have an answer for Giannis, and I just don't think they will be able to figure that out. Maybe Al Horford, maybe it'll give him a little bit of trouble, but he'll figure that out, I believe. Just too much length, too much like speed and strength. really what it's going to come down to.
I think that's who's going to be the matchup on Giannis. It's definitely going to be Horford. He's going to be asked to do a lot, mainly because of his size and his ability to somewhat switch on the perimeter. It's not like Giannis is going to cross you. He shouldn't.
He's going straight at you.
Yeah, he's going straight at you. So I feel like they're going to be doubling him a lot down low and making some other guys shoot. But, I mean, they have nothing but shooters. So it's definitely going to be a chess match between the two coaches to see who can put their players in the best position to succeed going forward.
Yeah, coach them. Yep.
Exactly. But let's move on over to the Western Conference side of things. After a disappointing loss in Game 4 to the Portland Trail Blazers, the Oklahoma City Thunder find themselves in an uphill battle down 3-1 in the series. After an abysmal shooting night from Westbrook going 5 for 21, he's been under fire from the fans and the media. So, will a third straight first-round exit stain the legacy of Russell Westbrook? What do you say?
Without a doubt, he has to win this series. Well, it's not looking good, but he has to start putting it together. He can't be continuously losing in the first round. Since KD has left, he is 3-11 in games since he's left, which it's not a good look for a player that we hold in such a high regard. We like to think that he's a top 3-point guard in the league, but this series is really starting to switch that conversation around. We're looking at Damian Lillard, we're looking at Kyrie Irving. Maybe they're possibly maybe they're the second and third best point guards in the league. So it's definitely had a hit on his legacy in the current moment. And then when we look back on it, I think we're going to look back and say, is he the type of player where they're going to ask why he isn't a top 15 player all time? Like, you look at his numbers, you say he averaged a triple-double streak 3 straight years, and he still may do it next year. So who even knows? He may continue to go on with historically great statistical seasons. So when we look back on it, I think we're going to all say we're going to link his career with KD's and Hardens. They're always going to be linked together. So it's going to be interesting. And when we look at KD, we're going to say he left OKC because of Russell Westbrook. As much as KD has denied that in the past. He said he didn't leave because of Russell Westbrook. But regardless, the narrative will always be KD left OKC because he knew he couldn't win with Russell Westbrook.
Right. For me, I definitely think this is going to stain his legacy. It's the same thing every year for the last 3 years. Amazing regular seasons from Westbrook, all the numbers you would want as like a stat geek and all that. But when it comes to the playoffs, just subpar performances. He's shooting 30% from 3 this year in the playoffs, one of his lowest percentages in a while. And he's the type of guy who's shooting threes and continues to shoot them as he continues to miss. Yeah. So I've never really understood that. I think if they lose in the first round, barring something amazing, they come back and win, this might drop his top 5 status in the league, if you even considered him there. No. A lot of people do, though.
I don't know. I don't get how I've heard some people call him the best player in the league.
Yes.
It's outlandish to me that you would even say that, being that you have such other great players, and they do it at the end of the day, basketball is a skill game. When I look at the game of basketball, when it comes to the top players, they're all athletic. They all are the best athletes in the world. So what really separates them is their skill. And that's one of the things that Russell does lack, being one of the better players in the league. He is not as skilled as some of the best players in the league. He's not a great shooter. I don't believe he's a top 5 playmaker in the league. I believe Chris Paul's a better playmaker. LeBron, Harden, give me Rondo. And then for that 5th spot, I'm going to say John Wall, just off the top of my head. Hard for me to think of somebody, the 5th one. But I'm going to say John Wall is a better playmaker than Russell Westbrook, I believe. So all the great things that he does do, I believe he does lack a little bit of the skill aspect of the game, as far as he doesn't have the best handle package. Kind of just goes at you full speed, which is the reason he is able to average a triple-double. He has that motor and he has that hustle, which is great to see as a fan. But you also need to work in your game in a skill aspect as well. Yeah,
his motor is second to none. But at the same time, it's not even the physical part of the game that I think Westbrook doesn't get. It's the mental, how to pull back, how to not stop, how to stop shooting, how to find your teammates more. And granted, I understand that their roster does have its flaws. They are not a shooting team at all, and they continue to shoot. Terrence Ferguson continues to hoist up 3. Raymond Felton is shooting something in the 20 percentile range when it comes from threes. So I don't know why they continue to shoot threes when they're not a 3-point shooting team. You could say Westbrook hasn't had the right coach to be able to reel him in, but at some point, 11 years into the league, at some point you got to look at the mirror. It can't always be, well, he hasn't had a coach to reel him in. growing up, you have to learn. These are things you have to learn being a basketball player. You don't always have someone there to tell you, hey, stop shooting. You're 5 for 21. Like that, I feel like that kind of stuff is obvious. I don't want this to sound like a big hate on Westbrook. I know he's amazing. I know he's able to do things. For people who think he's the best player in the league, I understand that to an extent. I think he has the potential to be that, but will he ever develop a jump shot?
Yeah,
we don't know. It's 11 years in.
I don't think he's changing. I think the player that he is the player he's going to be the rest of his career.
Will he ever pull back? I don't know. You know, he really got lucky, and Paul George decided to stay with him, so he has a running mate for the immediate future. But can you ultimately win a championship with Russell Westbrook as your first or second option, playing the way he is right now? I don't think so.
I will give Russ a little bit of leeway here because Paul George hasn't really showed up at all in this series at all.
He has not.
He's looked like a fraud to me. He, like, throughout the whole year, we were saying he was playing at a top 5 player, like, type of rate throughout the season. And throughout the playoffs, it's been what we saw last year. They tried to blame Melo. This year, it was no Melo. So it's falling on Paul George. Granted, he may be injured,
right?
But I will give him that. But he said the same thing last year. At a certain point, it's just who you are. I had such high hopes for Paul George looking back at his Miami series, battling with LeBron and the big 3 Heatles back in the day. So those were great moments, but since then, he hasn't been that same Paul George in the playoffs.
When you have Russell Westbrook, triple-double machine on your team, and Paul George, your offense shouldn't be an issue at all. Yeah. They're ranked 12th. Out of all the playoff teams, OKC is ranked 12th in terms of offensive efficiency. Out of 16 teams, the only teams that were under them when I looked was like the Jazz, the Magic, and one other team. Teams you expect to be knocked out here in the first round. So that in all shows you the problem with this team. Mm-hmm. Their 2 stars aren't really killing it in the playoffs. They're not doing what they're supposed to. They're not being efficient. Paul George I thought I was going to see playoff P, but like Skip Bayless be saying, I'm seeing George Paul. And look, he might be hurt. I understand that. But God, OKC is just too talented to be in this position.
Too talented. I've raised the question, or I've made the statement rather. I've made the statement of Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum work better as a duo than Russell Westbrook and Paul George, and we're starting to see that in this series. Like, you have games where Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum can both go off for 30. Paul George and Russell Westbrook, they can't seem to have great games together at the same time, and that's been the issue for most of the series.
Or they'll have like a random good game where both of them are going off and everything's great, and then the next game
it just falls off. No consistency.
They couldn't hit the side of a barn. And I don't understand how they could be so up and down. But then again, the NBA is all about who makes shots. And
it's a make or miss league.
It's a make or miss league. So ultimately, at the end of the day, you could be a great shooter and just all of a sudden miss. But for guys like Westbrook, who's known to be not an efficient scorer, he's falling in love with the back and forth between him and Damian Lillard, trying to shoot back and forth. Damian Lillard's a better shooter than you, bro.
You don't get in that individual matchup. You're trying to be the point guard of your team, so you got to lead them. And you're not the scorer that, you may think you are. He's a good scorer, but he's not one of the best scorers in the league when it comes to efficiency.
The man is literally like taking fadeaways in the mid-range. I'm like, are you Kobe now? Where's this coming from? I love
the heart and how he thinks he can do everything on the court, but at a certain point, know your limitations, all right? Know your limitations. And speaking of the Dame Russ matchup, have you been loving that matchup, man? We need more of that in the league.
Now that's a great matchup. Don't get me wrong, we're shitting on Westbrook right now, but that's a great matchup between them.
They've been drawing at each other back and forth. They get each other hyped up. One just goes off for 25 and a quarter after. It's been great to watch so far.
It's definitely been a great series to watch.
All right, getting into the next beef of our NBA. So going from the Damian Lillard and Russell Westbrook beef, I'm going to go ahead and slide into the best beef I think we've been enjoying. The Jared Bayless versus everybody on the 76ers. He's been going at Joel Embiid.
Jared Dudley, dog.
He's been going at everybody. He called Ben Simmons an average player. For those that didn't see it, he called him an average half-court player and said he's great in transition. He ended up pushing Joel Embiid, and him and Jimmy Butler got into an altercation. Jimmy Butler responded by shoving him back. and they both got ejected. The fight even kind of went into the stands a little bit. Almost could have ended up in, another one of those Malice in the Palace type of moments.
Right.
So I'm pretty sure the NBA was very cautious about how they went about it. I definitely believe they both deserve the fines and the ejections that they both got. What are your thoughts about the whole Jared Dudley versus everybody on the Sixers rosters right now?
First off, Jared Dudley, where is this coming from? Like, where? Jared Dudley is the last person I expect to be fighting on any NBA court. I didn't take it serious. But I do like competitiveness, and that's what this is. Jared Dudley's a vet. He's helping out this young Nets team, trying to get them to the next round. So he's doing what he needs to do in order to get his team going. But do I put too much stock into the little beef? I don't. Embiid is an instigator, and then he'll try to get you tossed out and act like he didn't do anything. Jimmy's real. I don't think Jared Dudley wants any of that.
I
don't think he wants any of that, so he should stand clear of that. But I don't put any real stock into it. I just think it's basketball, a little jawing back and forth. Jared Dudley calling Ben Simmons average in the half court. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
But
do you agree with that? Do you agree with that?
Oh, no, I disagree. Yeah. I wouldn't call him average.
Definitely not average. He's definitely above average, no matter where he is on the court.
Yeah, I would give him
the 3-point line.
Yeah, I would give him above average on the offensive end just because of his ability to create for anyone on the court. I understand he can't shoot, but also I don't think Jared Dudley can guard Ben Simmons.
I said physically he's still one of the best athletes in the world. He's almost like LeBron 2.0.
Exactly.
Except for the fact that he doesn't have that jump shot yet. But athletically, it's almost impossible to stay in front of him.
But in Jared Dudley's defense, if I was in his shoes, this is what I want to say. I want to be telling my team, yo, you can guard him in the half court. Just do this. I'm going to put as much confidence in my young guys and my teammates as I can. So if that means calling out Ben Simmons in the public saying, yeah, he's averaging the half court, he's easy to guard, then I'll do it. Mm-hmm. I'm sure Jared Dudley isn't concerned about Ben Simmons really going at him. Jared Dudley's at a level in the NBA now where he's just a vet. He's there for a good locker room guy, hit the occasional three, things of that nature. But I have no problem with what he said and trying to get his team a competitive edge.
He shouldn't have poked the bear, though. Ben Simmons came out, dropped 31 points, 9 assists without Embiid. So I think he should have kept it in-house with that statement. Tell the young guys that, but don't poke the bear. And it's a good sign to see Ben Simmons, kind of show that he is one of these elite players in the league and that he's not going to, be frozen in the playoffs, which we've kind of had conversations about. Is he as great as we think he is? When he kind of showed that, being that he had a team that was more centered around him, they had more space and without an Embiid on the court, and he went off and had a great game and scored just twos, no jump shots.
For me, what it's going to take to see from Simmons, I need to see him next round. I don't really care about this round against the Nets. You should beat the Nets. Even though I said the Nets could possibly upset them, but I had picked the Sixers ultimately to win the series. You should beat the Nets. You should be able to dominate them because there's no one who can guard you on their team. Now, next round, that's where I need to see Ben Simmons really establish his dominance. You're going against probably the Toronto Raptors, Kawhi Leonard, Marc Gasol. They got a deep roster. You can't have nights where you disappear against them or they will beat you. They will beat you. They're a very deep roster. So I like what I've seen from Ben Simmons in the first round. I hope he continues to keep that going.
All right, so let's go ahead and get into our next topic. We got just an update on the Spurs and Nuggets matchup. The Nuggets, are they going to be who we thought they were? A good regular season, but not ready for the playoffs? Or are they going to prove us wrong and show us that they do belong in that second seed? They rightfully earned it.
I think they're doing okay. I think they're doing about as well as I thought they'd be doing at this point. I picked the Spurs to win in 6, which means they got to win the next 2 in a row. Right now it's tied 2-2. I've liked little things I've seen from the Nuggets. I like the addition of moving Torrey Craig to the starting lineup last game. That was a big move. I like Jamal Murray, man. He's just so hot or cold.
He's hit or miss. Very hit or miss.
It's either he's on or he's off. But when he's on, you can't be mad. Gary Harris, Will Barton, guys like that have been providing, so that's good for them. Of course, I can't talk about the Nuggets without mentioning the Joker. Of course, he's been playing his game. But when I look at the Spurs, everything that I said in our prediction still stands. I think they have the better coach. I think they have better experience with DeMar DeRozan and LaMarcus Aldridge. These are guys who've been in the playoffs, been in battles before. Say what you want about DeMar DeRozan not getting far over in the East with the whole LeBron and all that stuff, but at least he's been there, so he knows what to expect in the playoffs. He knows how to get to his spot. Denver, I'm still a little. I'm not totally sold yet. I think they're doing great. I think being tied 2-2 right now, even though it's a 2-7 matchup, I think this is still a good sign for them going so far. But it's a lot of series left, and I think the Spurs are going to win in 6. It's a lot of series left, though, so they have to stay on it because the Spurs have already proven they can take a game on the road.
Yeah, I believe it's like you said, DeRozan's already took his lumps in the playoffs. He's had his failures, so that's kind of what you have to do as an NBA player. You got to go through the hard shit before you get to the the prosperous place. So DeRozan, he's still not playing at his best, but he is starting to play slowly getting better and better. Popovich is putting him in the places that he needs to be successful. Derek White has been a great
first team, all defense.
He's been great this year. He's been great. He just scored 36 points in Game 3. Had a breakout performance. It seemed like he couldn't miss that game. You have Brian Forbes, who showed up. That's 2 G League players that the Spurs have brought up. And you don't usually see that from a lot of teams. You usually don't see a lot of success from their G League or D League team at the time.
Right.
And the Spurs have one of those teams, like we had this conversation in the past, as far as you have to develop your young talent. No matter what you have to work with what you have. And you just can't focus on, okay, let's just go after superstar. You have to develop those role players so when you do get your superstars,
you don't have to fit right around them.
Yeah, you don't have to go searching. You don't have to go signing every free agent, seeing that they fit. You already have young players that you've been working on, and they last for many years. You have Danny Green, another player that came out of the G League. So the Spurs have been doing this for a while now, and it's just a testament to how great of a coach Popovich is. I believe he's the best coach of all time. He continues to show it year in and year out. No matter what he has around him, he's going to make it work. DeJounte Murray goes out with the ACL injury. They bounce right back with Derek White. So I think it's, like you said, the Nuggets are in the best situation right now. 2-2, I believe. That's kind of their best case scenarios. Not the way I envisioned it going. Each team splitting the game on their home court. But the Nuggets, they're in a good position, but I still believe the Spurs will close this game.
I like the Spurs a lot. I was arguing with some people online, and they were talking about how did the Spurs make the playoffs. I'm like, look, what do you mean? They lost an All-Star, yes, but they replaced it with another All-Star. Obviously, Kawhi and DeMar aren't the same level, but they replaced the All-Star. They have another All-Star caliber talent in LaMarcus Aldridge. They have a proven system that's been working for the last 20 years. I mean, what did you think? What did you think was going to happen when you put the Spurs up? So that's another big reason why I think they're going to ultimately pull this series out. They just have the cachet. They have the experience. They have all of those things that you need in a playoff team.
Yeah, I definitely agree. The Spurs, they continue to impress. They continue to do. Granted, not saying that we're surprised about it. It's kind of become like clockwork. They continue to give every team. You're not going to have an easy series when it comes to playing the Spurs. Right. Popovich, in playoffs, coaching matters a ton, no matter what you say. In basketball, we all like to praise the players. We all look at it as the player sport, but coaching does matter a lot when you get in these high pivotal playoff games, and Popovich continues to do great. But going on to our next, segueing into our next topic, we have James Harden, Game 3 against the Utah Jazz. He had a historically bad shooting night. He made history by missing his first 15 shots from the field. He finished 3 from 20 from the field. He scored 22 points, had 10 assists, and had 6 steals in the game. So I want to ask you, as far as the Rockets, and obviously they're up 3-0 against the Jazz at this point. It's looking like they may close them out tonight as we recording right now. So do you believe that are you concerned at all about his shooting performance? Do you think this will be something to keep an eye on throughout the rest of this postseason?
I have minimum concern about it, mainly because I believe this team is better than last year's team. I like this year's team's role players a lot better than I like last year. Like, we could talk about Trevor Ariza and all the people they lost, but the pieces they put in place,
they're great.
Yeah, they're playing great right now. So it's a minimum concern for me. Of course, I have to have a small concern because last year, at the end of the day, James Harden went on one of these streaks where he couldn't hit a shot. And ultimately, Chris Paul goes down, and we know how the rest of that series went from there in 7 games. So I have a small concern, but I don't think he's going to start. that bad again. And also, it's not about how you start. It's about how you finish, mate. Look, I trust James Harden at the end of games. A lot of people don't. I do. I think his ability to be able to get to the line, his ability to draw fouls, his ability to hit big three-point shots is going to be key. But if we're just talking specifically about that bad shooting night, I have minimum concern about it. What about you?
I don't have much concern about it. I believe it's just a bad shooting night.
Right.
Humans have bad shooting nights. That's kind of what I draw it up to be. James Harden's been carrying this team all season. It's about time the Sporting Cast, kind of carried him to a certain degree. Granted, in that fourth quarter, he did get it going. He had 14 points in the fourth quarter. So
how you finish?
Yeah, it's all about how you finish. When the game was still close, and that's another thing that I want to praise him about. He wasn't having his best game. He wasn't hitting shots. After the game was over, in his post-game interview, he was like, really, did I miss 15 shots? And I guess that's the attitude you have to have as a great scorer.
Short memory.
Yeah, you just got to I'm going to make the next shot. And that's one of my frustrations with Harden at the same time. It's
you got to Kobe that shit.
He just he continues to shoot 3 after 3, and he's not hitting. So I want him to go to the rim. I want him to pull a mid-range jump shot, even though that's against, D'Antoni's system. But it's kind of the mindset you have to have when you're the best scorer in the league. At least for this year, he's been the best scorer in the league. So I love the mentality. He stayed engaged throughout the game. Like I mentioned, he had 6 steals. So that's kind of the development in his defensive game a little bit. He continued to get teammates involved, got to the free throw line, even though he wasn't hitting regular jump shots and things like that. So I believe there's a lot of positives to look at, although he was having a bad shooting night. And he did get it going at the end. So that's all that matters.
And at the end of the day, they won the game.
Yeah, in Utah. And that's not an easy place to win.
They won the game. That's all that's going to matter. You can start 0 for 15. As long as you finish 3 for 6, like I think he did, and you win the game, no one's going to care later. Winning solves everything. All those years, Kobe used to just keep shooting and shooting and shooting and be like 8 for 24, 8 for 25. If he hit the game winner, guess what? I forgot about all them other shots he missed that quick.
Game winner. That's like winning. That's all I need at the end of the day.
Exactly. So, man, it was a bad shooting night for Harden, and he's very capable of having those. Mm-hmm. And I don't think he's going to be able to have one of those against Golden State. I think he's going to need to be at least somewhat of a resemblance of what he was during the regular season, each and every night against them. But what this should help a lot of Houston fans out. Seeing him struggle like this and seeing them win on the road, especially in a place like Utah, it's got to be a positive.
Yeah, I believe it is a bad draw for Utah in this series. A lot of teams were kind of trying to avoid Houston in that first round. They've had the best record in the league since All-Star break. And last game was just a testament to how they play, how great of a team they are. Like you said, I believe they're a better team this year than they were last year. Granted, they did lose. Everybody made a big deal about them losing Trevor Ariza and Mbamute, but Mbamute didn't even really have an effect in the playoffs at all.
He's out the league. Is he on a team right now?
He's hurt. He's out for the season again, I believe, out with injury. But he didn't have an effect at all throughout that playoff run last year. Trevor Ariza, I appreciate everything he did for Houston, being a fan of the Rockets, but that's Game 7. He couldn't hit the side. He couldn't throw the ball in the ocean. Like he wasn't able to hit anything. Although he still does the things that need to be done as far as defense, as far as doing all the little things, but he wasn't able to hit any shots. And like you said, Austin Rivers, Fareed, Daniel House, they've all stepped in and played that role great. They've all made great contributions to the team. Moving Eric Gordon to the starting lineup, it's a different feel. Used to him coming off the bench, but it's all worked out. They're playing great, and it's looking like they may sweep the Utah Jazz. So everything's clicking on all cylinders.
So random, since you the Houston fan here, you the Rocket fan, you rooting for them. I ask you this: with the next round being against them against the Warriors, most likely, who do you believe is your X factor on the Rockets going forward against the Warriors?
X factor in that series, I'm gonna have to go with, I want to say Daniel House. Honestly, Daniel House, he's been surprising me all year. I believe he's gonna get a good amount of minutes. He's gonna have to guard KD some of the time. He's gonna have to guard a lot of their better players. He's an athletic wing. He's a great three-point shooter, which has surprised me. He even kind of makes his own shot at times, and it kind of catches me off guard, but he's proven that he can do that. They had a little bit of a contract dispute during the middle of the season. Mm-hmm. And I really wanted to get that done, and I'm glad they did get that done in time for him to, be eligible for the playoffs and everything. So I believe he will be the X factor, kind of just that player. Him and Eric Gordon. I'll say him and Eric Gordon because Eric Gordon has to hit shots. Eric Gordon is one of those players. Last year, he was hitting shots in that series against the Warriors. That's the reason why we were able to take it to such a, long series. It's looking like we may win that series before the whole Chris Paul injury. So I'm going to put them two as the X factors, specifically Daniel House.
First off, shout out Daryl Morey in Houston's front office for those signings. Daniel House. Was it James Nunley was playing for you guys?
James Nunley.
Who else?
Marie, Austin Rivers.
Who is the guy? There's another shooter you guys had this year on the team, and I just can't. He's on the bench right now, and I just can't remember his name.
Oh, Gary Clark?
Yes, Gary Clark. They found all types of guys this year to plug and play while they were suffering through injuries, and look at where they're at. About to be playing the Warriors again.
That's a great job by Daryl Morey.
Exactly. So for me, the X factor for the Rockets, you said it in the following: Eric Gordon. I feel like he's a big piece. I don't have the stats right in front of me, but him guarding Donovan Mitchell, he's been locking Donovan Mitchell up this whole series. He's been doing a great job, and he's been attacking on the offensive end. I think he's very important because those nights where James Harden has one of these nights where he can't seem to hit a shot, and Chris Paul's doing more of a distributing and can't hit a shot, you need someone else who can come out there and give you a surprise 20 on a random night, or even a 30, knowing Eric Gordon. So I think his scoring and his defense are going to be so key in the next series, and he's going to have to keep that up for them to win that series.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Eric Gordon is definitely pivotal in this next series going forward.
But let's switch back over to the Eastern Conference and talk about the Claw, Kawhi Leonard. Now, after a 34-point performance and a convincing win over the Magic, the Raptors sit in the driver's seat up 3-1 against... Oh, excuse me. The Raptors sit in the driver's seat up 3-1 against the Magic. Kawhi, one of the biggest fish available this offseason, continues to show why he's established himself as one of the best two-way players in the league. So, with that, do you consider Kawhi Leonard a top 5 player in the league right now?
He's without a doubt a top 5 player in my opinion. He gives me that MJ Kobe feel when I'm watching the game. He kind of plays a little bit similar to their playing styles. Goes out there, he gives you 25 plus. Throughout the last few games, he's giving you 30 plus. He's starting to, up his scoring average. And that's
I think he's averaging like 28 right now.
Yeah, that's one of the things I kind of want for Kawhi Leonard going forward. I need to see him, have more high scoring games. If he's not going to do as much playmaking as, some of the other superstars in the league, I need him to up his scoring average. And he's done that throughout these playoffs. After that game 1, he's really taking it upon himself, saying that I'm the superstar of this team. Give me the ball, then we're going to win these games. That's what I love to see. As a top 5 player, he does everything you want him to do. He scores. He guards your best defender. He rebounds. He does playmaking to a degree. Granted, the system that he's in, they're more ball movement central and little bit of ISO here and there, so he does not get a chance to, show his distributing ability. That's one of the things I do believe he can work on, but without a doubt, I definitely believe he's a top 5 player in the league.
Yeah, I agree. He's easily a top 5 talent, tier 1 level superstar. I had put out a video about Kawhi Leonard a couple years ago talking about because people were saying, was he better than LeBron James? Yeah. And I think why he isn't better than LeBron James then is still some of the reasons right now that he needs to work on. He's not much of a playmaker, and it could be partly due to the system, but he's never been really much of a passer. In this series, I've seen him do a couple more passes, attempt to pass more, attempt to get teammates involved, but let's just call it for what he is. A two-way player, a bucket, a walking bucket, mid-range. I like how his offensive game has transformed over the years. He's become a reliable, efficient offensive player. And do we even need to say anything about defense? Put him on whoever, your point guard, the 2, the 3, the 4, it doesn't matter. Kawhi can lock up anybody in the league in my opinion. So Kawhi Leonard is definitely a top 5 talent to me. Lakers need to be throwing whatever money, whatever y'all need to do to get him in LA, y'all need to do. Not the Clippers, the Lakers, because that's what I want on my team. I want a Kawhi Leonard that.
I'll definitely assume he'd go to the Clippers in that situation, just throwing that out there. But Kawhi does everything you want him to do on the basketball court. There's really nothing I believe you can really complain. He's become, like you said, a reliable three-point shooter, a very reliable. Shooting about 40% nowadays. So that's a huge jump from where we, the Kawhi that we've seen grow and mature. We all thought that he was a okay offensive player, but we didn't think that he was a superstar offensive player. You can give him the ball and he goes out there and gives you buckets. And he's proven that he can do that consistently with having the Spurs team the last few years by himself, him and LaMarcus Aldridge, and now with the Raptors, being that he's kind of the only superstar there. I'm not calling Kyle Lowry a star or a superstar in any form of the matter. I'm going to say Pascal Siakam is their second best player at this point. I'm going to throw that out there. Spicy P's been having a great series. He's averaging 22 points and 9 rebounds throughout this series on 55% shooting. So him and Pascal Siakam, they've really been playing great. Pascal Siakam has a high ceiling.
Bro, Siakam, his layup package, like the lays he be making. Like
I heard Draymond comparisons, but he has way more skill than Draymond.
No. Definitely way more skill than Draymond. Even if Draymond may, but I mean Siakam's not a bad defender at all. He's a very good one. You can put him on a lot of people. He's got good footwork. He can knock down an open shot. He can play make. He runs the floor well. Siakam's great. I like Siakam.
Yeah. The Raptors have a lot going for them. If Kawhi stays this year, it'll be interesting to see who else they can put around them in the future. But now, I hit my boy Michael up. I said, let's talk about a lot of talk has been going on between is KD the best player? Is LeBron still the best player? Is James Harden the best player? Giannis the best player? So I wanted to have a debate about who we have as our best current player in the NBA. Is it Kevin Durant? After the talks about, he wasn't shooting as much against the Clippers, he came out and told us, y'all know who I am. That's what he came out and told us. And since then, he's been playing on a great level, the level that we all expected him to be at. He's been averaging, I believe, 35 points those last 2 games. Really putting it, Mr. Game 3. That's what I want to call him from now on. Mr. Game 3. He swings the balance. As soon as you think you got a chance in the series, Mr. Game 3 shows up. He hits game winners over you. He goes for 38 on you in 3 quarters, and he just shows up. So do you think KD is the best player in the league? And if not, who do you have?
So currently, right now, at this point, I'm going to say yes. I'm taking Kevin Durant. It's for a lot of reasons. Health, availability, that's a big thing. Like, because I know haters right now are fuming right now. Like, KD, you forgot about LeBron. I didn't forget about LeBron, even though he plays for my team. But I have to look at health and availability. And LeBron wasn't available this year. Yeah. He had his first major injury this year. Missed 18 games. It cost us. It hurt me. So, yeah, I'm going to go with KD for health, availability. There's not a shot he can't make, like you already said. He can pull up from 30. He can get you in the mid-range. He can get you in the post, fade away, Dirk fade away, hook shot, left hand, right hand, Euro. It doesn't matter. He has every move you could want, and he's 7 foot, so you can't stop it no matter what you think. You're not blocking. I don't think I've ever seen KD get a jumper block. I'm trying to remember straight up in his face get his jumper block. I don't think so.
Rare sighting.
Yeah, it's definitely a rare sight. He's improved defensively, especially since coming to Golden State. He's improved as an all-around basketball player. You know, he like he said the other night, I'm not going to keep shooting more. I'm going to play me. I pass. That's what I do. I think he's really set himself up to leave here. He's came to Golden State, learned how to win. It literally kind of rivals LeBron going to Miami. Couldn't win in Cleveland. KD couldn't win in OKC. They leave, go to their next stop, win a couple rings, learn what it takes to be a champion. Yeah. Then they leave, go else. In LeBron's case, he went back, but in KD's case, he could be going somewhere else. I think he's really getting his mind right, his body, his play style to really be the leader of a team elsewhere, wherever that may be. And all his badges, Hall of Fame. All of it. Limitless range, corner specialist.
Dead eye for sure.
Tireless scorer. All of that is Hall of Fame purple. Uh-huh. So, yeah, I'm going to go with KD is the best player in the NBA currently. I think if you did like a random fantasy draft right now, I think KD goes number 1.
It's hard to combat that argument. I don't believe KD is the best player in the league. I believe he lacks one specific skill if you take him outside of the Golden State Warriors system, and that's playmaking. And that's one thing you have to have. If I was to take, like you said, if you're going to have a fantasy draft, you have to have that playmaking because you're not going to have the best team in the league, like by far. The Warriors are kind of the best team in the league when they're on their A game. You have two of the best shooting backcourt in the league with Steph and Clay. You're not going to have that if you're on your own team. So that's kind of why I didn't put KD as my best player. He has to work on that aspect of his game, even though he may be at that point where he is what he is. And I need him to be a great scorer. That's his bread and butter. That's what we think makes him such a great player and maybe all-time great. So if he continues that scoring pace, it's going to be hard to argue. But I believe the best player in the NBA is James Harden at this point.
Whoa.
He's come off a historical season. Nobody's done what he's done since Michael Jordan and Wilt Chamberlain. He has every aspect offensively. He can take it to the hole. He finishes through contact. He draws the most contact when he's at the rim. He gets to the free throw line. He hits his free throws, which is very important, not just getting there, but also making them. He can hit the mid-range shot that may be against D'Antoni's system, but when he does, he hits it. He has a tough handle on him. Every night you're getting an update about how he shook Jamal Murray to the ground, how he put Wesley Johnson on his knees.
Like how he's abusing Ricky Rubio again and again and again.
It doesn't stop with the handles. Like, he got one of the best handles in the league, which I think goes underrated. And that's the way he plays is very kind of, it's not slow, but it's very like sluggish in a way. Like it's irky jerky and Manu kind of type of game.
It's awkward to a point. And he's a lefty. So
yeah, that lefty, and so he has a tough handle on him to do what he does, and it goes underrated, I believe. He's in great condition. Like you said, the best attribute is availability. He's the only superstar in the league that rarely misses games. He only missed like 1 or 2 games throughout the year. Last year, he missed a couple games due to a hamstring injury, but it's only like 5 games, I believe. So he has the best durability out of anybody in the league. He doesn't miss anything. He doesn't try and take any games off for rest. He's a hooper. He just wants to go out there and hoop. He knows that his time here is limited. He tries to put his best foot forward. Defensively, he's taken a huge step since those viral videos about him not playing defense, just letting people run right by him. Nowadays, the only time he does that is when he's in foul trouble, and that's because he's trying on defense. Like the game that he just had, he had 6 steals in a game that he was playing terrible offensively. So that tells you that he's being engaged, and that's hard for a superstar to be nowadays. When you're not shooting your best, when you're not having your best offensive game, to stay engaged, still make plays for your teammates, still be locked in defensively. So I definitely give him a lot of credit in the development that he's had, and as a player, he's coming off his MVP season, and he's playing at a higher level than it was last year. And with that being said, he's playing the best basketball right now, if you ask me.
So I guess I love James Harden. Let me just get that out of the way. I love James Harden. Everything you said is 100% true. I have no issues with any of that. I think he's better than he was last year. I think it's hard to believe he's improved off an MVP year in the following year. So that's great. The only pushback I have with dubbing James Harden the best player in the NBA, I think KD has him beat as far as efficiency. Sometimes Harden can have those nights, man, where just stop shooting. Harden can go a little Westbrook sometimes. He's just a better shooter, right?
Yeah.
So Harden can go a little Westbrook where he'll keep shooting and shooting. And it's one thing the one gripe I have against Harden, this is the only gripe I have, it's not how he plays trying to get fouls. I just don't like when he's trying to get fouls, he's clearly not getting them, and then he continues to just try and get the foul instead of score the basketball. To me, he's way too talented for that. And I think there's a level of KD just being 7 foot that you just can't account for. I have no problem. Harden's in my top 5. Let's just get into that. I put together, I didn't really look at stats or nothing. I just put my top 5 players, no order, just in a list. So here's what I got. Here's my top 5 of the top 5 players in the NBA. So KD, of course, we're already talking about Kevin Durant. I have him there. I still have LeBron James in my top 5. 28, 8, and 8. I mean, what? Like, how can I not have him there? Injury, like we've talked about the Lakers too many times. Injuries, all types of things attributed to the Lakers' bad season. But I still have LeBron there in that top 5. I expect him to be an MVP candidate next year. James Harden is definitely in that top 5. You already said it. There's nothing much more to say about him. He's a great player. He might be MVP again. Might beat the Warriors this year. We don't know. We'll see. But he's in my top 5. I have Giannis in my top 5. He's taken a big step this year. Obviously, he's having a season I don't think no one's had since Shaq, I believe. So that's something to look at. And then I got Kawhi Leonard in my top 5 to round it out. Best two-way player in the game to me. A franchise changer, depending on where you send him. Those are who I think are the top 5 players in the league all around. I know some people, no Steph. Yeah, no Steph. He would be right there in that 6.
Yeah.
Probably right there
Right
next.
out.
You could probably take one of these guys out. This is just, to me, considering size and all the type of things like that, these are my top 5 players in the league. Give us yours.
I'm going to give you mine. So I'm one of those people that's with the Steph wave. Steph has just as good as argument of being the best player in the league as KD and Harden do, I believe. He is somewhat of a defensive liability. He is a defensive liability.
There
not
we go.
somewhat.
There you go. It's all
But
right. It's all right.
he gives that effort. Like I was saying about Harden, he gives you that effort. He doesn't
Right.
he doesn't like lay down on the defensive end and just let whatever happen. He's gonna, he's gonna get some steals here and there. He's not gonna let the switch just happen. He's gonna try and fight through it and things like that. So I believe I have Steph in my top 5. The person I'm taking out, I got KD, I got LeBron, I got Kawhi, I got Harden. I'm taking out Giannis. Despite the great year that he's had.
That's tough.
I'm taking out Giannis. Like, the people that I was teetering between was actually LeBron and Giannis. But if I look at the teams, if I have Giannis on the Lakers are still probably the Lakers. They may be even worse. Granted durability with LeBron this year. But if I put LeBron on the Milwaukee Bucks, they're definitely probably the same team they are, if not better. So that's why I have LeBron going in there, and I have Steph going in there. Kawhi, Harden, and KD is pretty self-explanatory. We already talked about those 3. But with LeBron and Steph, you put them on any team, I believe they instantly turn into one of the best teams in the league. Obviously, with LeBron, the whole Lakers thing, like we said, we talked about them enough. It's kind of outlier year for him. Next year, we'll see where LeBron goes, but he's still a top 5 player in my opinion. And Steph, he's the best shooter in the league. If you put him on the Bucks right now, they're a great shooting team already as it is. Granted, they'd be missing. You take away a great small forward, you put in this point guard, it's going to look a little bit different. You're not going to want Eric Bledsoe probably, but you probably put something else. If you put somebody like Tobias Harris at their 3, they're going to be just as good a team, if not better. It's going to change, I believe.
It was tough for me. Top 5, Steph. I was teetering between Steph and Giannis. It's just, like I said, I'm looking at the total body of work. I know how Steph could be possibly better than all these people on offense that I have in my top 5. But it's just that other end of the floor where I can count on these guys more. I don't know if I can count on Steph. I just don't know. Now, I have no problem with him being top 5 on most lists, as he probably should be. This is just who I think on both sides of the court. Well, I mean, look, I had LeBron in this list too. But he affects the game so much on offense that it's hard to not have him. Because offensively, he's maybe the smartest player in the league. So it was hard to remove him there. And I think a part of me has LeBron still in my top 5 off status, just simply alone. It's hard for me to move him out of there. But yeah, Giannis and KD, it was tough, man, because Giannis, he's getting better at shooting, but he's not there yet.
That was the deciding factor in my list. That Steph is all the players that I have are, somewhat. LeBron's probably the worst shooter in my list, and he's become a pretty good shooter as it is. So with Steph, it was more so he's the best shooter in the league. He has gravity, which helps everybody else get open. I put him on just about any team in the league. I believe you get somewhat of the same production. Granted, Steve Kerr has put probably the perfect system around Steph. He's instilled great confidence in him. And the one thing with Steph I will argue is we've never seen him without Klay Thompson and Draymond as far as, him taking this huge leap that he's taken the last 4 or 5 years. He wasn't this player the first couple years of his career. He just really started taking that big leap. He was a good player, but now he's taking a great leap now that he has such other great players around him. So that would be my one gripe about him. We see KD, we see Kawhi, we see Harden. They all led their own teams at some point. LeBron and Giannis right now, they're all kind of leading their own teams. I believe if we have KD lead this year, we may get a little bit of that Steph that we saw in that second MVP year. He'll remind everybody of how great of a player he is and how he can take over a game and things like that.
So let me ask you this. Steph Curry, you take him off the Warriors. Take James Harden off the Rockets. You put Steph Curry in. Give me his stat line.
Put Steph Curry on the Rockets?
Yep, take James Harden out. Steph Curry is now your best player. Give me the Steph Curry stat line in the Mike D'Antoni system.
I got 33 points.
At least 30.
I got 33 points because he's getting them shots up. He's going to be shooting on 47% shooting, 46 from the three-point line, definitely 95 or something from the free throw line. He'll probably get more free throws. He'll miss a couple more games, being that he's in Mike D'Antoni's system.
Oh yeah, he's gonna run you.
Yeah, so he's gonna have a bigger workload than he has in Golden State. He already missed his game as it is. And I'll round it out with assists and turnovers. He's gonna give you about, say, I'm gonna give him 8 or 9 assists. So 8.5. I'll give him 8.5 assists, 5.5 rebounds, 4 turnovers per game.
I think you put Steph in D'Antoni's system, I think he gets all career highs. Points, rebounds. I think they're gonna let him just get the rebound. Assists, I think he's gonna get career high in that because you have to pay so much attention to him. And if you look at Harden's usage rate, apply that to Steph Curry and tell him to do what you want.
He already kind of do what he wants, but if he don't have to, he doesn't have to cater to Clay or KD or anything like that. He can just worry about, okay, I'm gonna do me, and everybody else is just gonna be ready for when I get double teamed. He's going to flourish in that system. I will say that.
Yeah, and he can score on all 3 levels, and that's big. 3-point mid-range and at the basket, and that's huge for him. So I think putting Steph Curry in a D'Antoni system, that smells like MVPs. That smells like career highs, first team All-NBA, all of that every year.
Yeah. But like you said, durability. It takes a certain amount of conditioning and durability to do that as well.
That is true.
So
you got to check them
only
ankles.
thing. Yeah, that'd be the only thing with Steph.
But that's all we have today. I want to thank everybody for listening to episode 10 of Here's the Deal. We'll be back next week with another episode. David, what you want to say to the people?
Hey, shout out Josh Gordon, episode 10. Shout out Eli Manning. I don't know why I'm shouting out Eli.
Yeah,
Eli, man. I don't know why I threw that in there. But shout out Eli, because he did get Tom Brady out the way 2 years, 2 Super Bowls.
Look, ain't nobody else shouting out Eli, so go ahead. Shout him out.
Yeah,
shout out Eli Manning, yo.
Go on your farewell tour right quick. Go on your farewell tour. And thank you guys for listening to another episode of Here's the Deal. We appreciate your listening so much. Continue to, show love. I'm loving the action we're getting from y'all. Thank you so much.
Yeah, also, if you're not already following us on social media, make sure you go and do that. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. You can listen to us on Spotify, iTunes, Anchor,
YouTube,
SoundCloud, YouTube. We're on almost any platform you could think of. If you're having trouble finding us, just shoot one of us a message and we'll help you out. Thanks, guys, for listening, and we'll see you guys next week.
Here's the deal.
Thank you for listening to Here's the Deal podcast. Tune in for next week's episode. And don't forget to add the Here's the Deal podcast Facebook and Twitter pages.